Hi again, everyone, and welcome to the Sweet 16. I'm Mike Lucas for UWBadgers.com. I'm joined by Matt Lepay, the voice of the Badgers. To our right, hard right, is the TD Garden. We're standing in Cambridge, right across the Charles River from Boston. Not a bad sight, is it?
No, not a bad sight. Perfect day. Sweet 16's nice on many fronts, including this kind of location, and knowing the teams that are here too adds to it.
Well, the number one seed is here, and that's Syracuse, and the Badgers have drawn the Orange on Thursday night. What do you think? Fair match or not?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think Wisconsin has proven that it can play with anybody. I mean, you look at the schedule this year. Now, some of the games that they've taken some close losses, but other games they've won. You go down to Ohio State and win. You win last week against a Vanderbilt team that is fresh off a win against Kentucky. I think same old story with Wisconsin. It protects the ball, it defends, and it shoots well enough most of the time. I know there are times where you wonder if they can make a shot, but they clearly demonstrated they could hit some shots, especially when they absolutely had to have them in that last game against Vandy.
Well, I get the sensation the Badgers could put scare into anybody in this tournament. That includes Syracuse. Now, this is a team that's won 33 games and lost only twice, and people are still trying to pick it apart.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they've had some obstacles to deal with, to be sure. It's been very well documented, let's put it that way. But you're right, they are 33-2. There's always, I think there is, for those who are not familiar with Syracuse, when you think of a team that plays a lot of 2-3 zone, you think it sits back and just dares you to shoot. But this is a very aggressive zone. Teams only shoot 38% against it. And then the nitpicking comes from the rebounding, where they're a -1.5, but they make up for that because they force a lot of turnovers. So they're 33-2 for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is that outstanding defense that they have.
We're going to be treated to a couple of the better point guards left in this tournament. Scoop Jardine for Syracuse and Jordan Taylor for Wisconsin.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of fun to mention a Wisconsin point guard again up there with some of the premier players in this country. Scoop Jardine and Jordan got to know each other a little bit. Darren Williams camp this past summer, and Jardine is one of those guys. If you just look at points per game and all, you think, oh, okay, it's not overwhelming. He's like an 8 or 9 point a game guy, but he's really good with the assist. And this, like Wisconsin, really, the Badgers have been very balanced of late. Syracuse has been pretty balanced throughout the course of the season. Second leading scorer comes off the bench. That's a pretty good indicator of that balance.
A lot of people feel that this Syracuse is better than some of Boeheim's more vintage teams only because of the depth. And you just mentioned Waiters, and they bring Sutherland off the bench, and they've both been productive.
And that depth, I think, has been a real factor, or I guess if you're Wisconsin, you hope it isn't that much of a factor on Thursday night. But without Fab Melo, you're talking about one of the premier defensive players, an outstanding shot blocker, but even without him, they've been able to advance. Didn't look the greatest in that first game against Asheville, but in the second game against K-State, 1 point game at the half, Syracuse breaks it open in the second half. And again, you go back to that defense, Mike. It's an aggressive zone. They make it hard for you to get into what you're doing. If they don't get a steal, they'll force you to take a desperation shot with the shot clock winding down, and that allows the Cuse to get out in transition. And I think if you talk to a lot of neutral observers, that's the area that people are going to be watching for on Thursday. Can Wisconsin limit Syracuse in its transition opportunities?
Final thought, the pressure's got to be on Syracuse, doesn't it?
I think so. I think, you and I think a lot of others have talked about this Wisconsin team. If they could get through that first weekend, great year. I think the Badger players are looking at it a little differently. They don't want this to end, especially for Jordan and for Rob. But when you get to the Sweet 16, you can start to smell something extra special, and I think that's how this team views this now. A couple of wins away. I know the head guy always talks about next, but when you're this close, you want to keep going as long as you can, and who's to say this Wisconsin team can't do that?
We'll have a practice report from the TD Garden on Wednesday, and we want to thank Dan Fahey for relinquishing the microphone for a couple of minutes. For Matt Lepay, I'm Mike Lucas in Cambridge, Mass. Thanks for watching UWBadgers.com.